Sports Carnival broadcasting live, baby, from the Trauma Center studio. Top of the morning. I'm Dave. This is Matt, the owner of the Recovery Room, who, of course, powers the Trauma Center studio. Hope you guys and gals are off to a very nice start today. Maddie, top of the morning to you, big guy. We got our asses kicked at the bar last night in a great way. When I say, we got our asses kicked in a great way. What a fun Tuesday night at the Recovery Room. You can tell when the weather turns to spring, a young man's fancy turns towards romance. And last night at the Recov, all the good-looking girls and all the guys that sort of attract, the good-looking girls attract, like, at the Recovery Room. It was awesome.
I just want to say pure blessings to everybody today. Yeah, I guess it's one of the busy day, brother. It makes the shift go by a lot faster as well, and makes it a lot more entertaining. So that's always a good thing. And we've better and brighter days ahead, my friend. Warmer days as well.
I tell you, today's going to be a bit colder here in western Wisconsin. Don't care. It's sunny outside. We're rocking with it. And glad that you're up in Adam, rocking with us this morning. UWL's Thomas is with us, and he's jumping in early. It says, Matt, good morning. Rob Dog is famous. He was featured on News 19 Sports. Rob will tell you more. Also, I'm seeing 61 beautiful degrees for Sunday. Now, that's my type of weather. I like it, Thomas. Thank you very much. And I can't wait to hear what Rob Dog did to get himself on the sports channel.
Yeah,
this is fantastic.
This is breaking news to me, my friend, as well. So I can't wait to see what he had to say.
I can't wait either. The Rob Dog Sports Brief, maybe that's making some major waves. He's been having this, Matt, on Instagram since, I want to say Rob was still a sophomore in high school. So I do take a little credit because they told me it was largely due to my show that we did for a number of years out here, the one that we're kind of continuing on now, that Rob Dog got himself into, at least mentally, the idea of sportscasting.
Nice.
He had no previous inclination to really do that. So then he did start. He's been calling DeSoto sports games. I'm not exactly sure to what degree, but he's called DeSoto sports games. He's been on the sidelines for a whole bunch of different games. And I still think that Rob has an affiliation with the DeSoto track team. Maybe he's a coach. So Rob Dog and Stoddard, congratulations. Can't wait to see what it is that you did to get yourself on the news. Hopefully it was a good thing, right? Like, we didn't see Rob getting hit in the head with a volleyball or something and passing out on the freeway or
hopefully
whatever.
Not. I just know that he's really good at keeping us up to date with the local high school sports. So hopefully it goes along those lines.
Well, he's good with keeping us up to date on local high school sports that are in Kickapoo, DeSoto, like those areas, Lafarge, other places that feel like they're in another country, but they're actually not. It turns out they're small towns in western Wisconsin, which I'm always fascinated by because I've lived out here for nearly 6.5 years. It's actually going to be 6.5 years in a month or so. There are so many things in the state of Wisconsin that I've not done. There are so many places that I've never been. I've never even been to Eau Claire. What's that, an hour away?
Hour 45, yeah.
Okay, hour 45. Never been there. Never been to Fountain City, which is up the Great River Road on the other side of the river from Winona, right?
Yep.
So I've never been up there. I'd love to go to a lot of these places. You keep it coming, Rob Dog from Stoddard. And again, hopefully, you didn't find out if you can't dodge a wrench, you can't dodge a ball. And, that's not why you made it.
Well, and I was just going to say, it sounds like we have some road trips this summer we're going to have to go to you, my friend. We'll get you out there and see some of the parts of Wisconsin I guess you haven't seen. So it is beautiful in the summertime.
It's gorgeous out here all over. And I mean all times of the year. It's just a lot more palatable to go places when it's feeling warm, right?
100%.
All right, Rob Dog from Stoddard is checking in this morning, and this is fantastic, Rob. I'm glad that you're bringing us this local sports information, but you've got to answer the most pressing question of the morning. Why did you get on the television last night? Rob Dog says, in local softball, Matt, Logan tops Aquinas. He's doing that just for you. 13-5. Central falls to GET 10-3. Cashton tops Lafarge. I knew that would make its way in here. 18-1. Melmin, that's Melrose Mindoro, beats Oliva Strum 21-2. In baseball, Luther tops Independence Gilmanton 10-3. That's fantastic. And Rob Dog from Stoddard, congratulations on being featured. Do tell me what it was for.
That is Johnny checking in with us. He looks like he wants to get us a limo for this road trip, my friend.
Oh, let's bring this comment up ASAP. Johnny Wad, sounds like I need to get the limo out of storage.
Yeah, he's
got
and
we'll need to take a road trip soon. It's in storage.
Yep, he's got plenty of cars in his fleet.
All right, so I want Hollywood to drive.
Oh boy,
I want Johnny Wad, you. Let's get Sauce. Let's get Squirrel. Let's get a couple of other true degenerates into the back of this thing. Fuck yeah, man. Let's make this a party. Absolutely. As long as Hollywood drives, I think this is going to be great. Can you imagine him behind the wheel of a limo?
I'm gonna just back to you, Dave.
Oh, I love this. I love this. Thank you, Johnny. All right, Rob's checking back in. He says this: I was in the right place at the right time and was seen in the background doing his sports work on the sidelines when the TV cameras were at Logan and the Aquinas softball game. All right, well, that's a lot less impressive than I thought, but I'm glad to see that you're on television, and I'm glad that Thomas found you, man. I did think, Rob, when Thomas brought that up, that you got interviewed. So, I mean, it's always good to be in it. Listen, if you're in a film, in a shot, like you're a working extra, like that's cool. And then they caught you doing your sports work, which is also kind of cool. Rob, let's see if we can get some B-roll from this. We'll put it on the show, man. I'd love to have that.
Well, and like you said, it was a good thing that it was more of along those lines than taking like an errant softball to the head when he wasn't paying attention. That would have been bad. Absolutely.
Well, it would have been hilarious, but it would have sucked if you're Rob.
Yep.
That's what you don't want. You don't want to go, you never want to go viral for like maybe I was just going to say you don't want to go viral for the wrong reasons. I don't know if that's true. I really don't. Do you guys remember Jackass? The show Jackass?
Sure.
Okay. So I was hanging out with Steve-O once in Vegas, and we were with a couple of buddies. Steve-O left his camera like at the bar. So me and a couple of buddies are going, down the strip later on that night and just looking through this camera and looking at all the shit that these guys have on, because it was like a not inexpensive camera, right? And he had some bear eating stuff off his penis and testicles. Like, that's the kind of stuff that you're like, okay, if the bear eats your junk, like that's a real possibility. Like the bear could actually just eat your junk right now, walk away like nothing happened. That would be going viral for me in the wrong reason. But at the same time, they found great success with that. So now that I'm thinking about it, Rob, you might want to get yourself back in line and see if you can take a softball to the head.
I'm just surprised
Johnny. Bad idea.
I don't know. I'm just surprised Johnny Knoxville and Bam Margera are still alive. So that's what really blows me after all this.
Are they still alive?
Knoxville is for sure. He's not looking great, but yeah, they just came out. He just had another special about last year, I believe.
Yeah, I outgrew that when I was way younger than UWL's Thomas and Rob Dog. Like, and not to say that guy getting hit with something doesn't have its place, because it does. It's definitely got its place. It's a lot quicker of a place than a 2-hour movie, for God's sakes. I could see it in a 15-second clip and be satisfied, move on with my day. All right, we've got a lot to cover. I'm getting off track, but this is awesome. I'm so glad to see you guys and gals up and at it. And like the younger members of the Sports Carnival coming in full force this morning. Joey Miller, Aquinas grad, member of the Aquinas championship football team, says, good morning, guys. Good morning, dude. Christian Yelich. Is Christian Yelich going to have one multi-homer game this season? That's a great question. As a matter of fact, Yelich, homers, that's going on a poll question for tomorrow.
I think he's had like a 213 slash for the last 3 years. So
he's been awful.
He's been horrible.
Well, ever since his knee plus back gave out and he signed that big contract right before the start of that COVID shortened season. I mean, right before, Christian Yelich has been atrocious, and he's not absolutely lived up to the contract in any way, shape, or form. Milwaukee might have just eaten the biggest piece of shit pie in the history of baseball, because forget whatever you want to say about Bobby Bonilla's contract continuing, on in perpetuity. Bobby Bonilla was a productive baseball player for like his entire career.
For sure.
Like Bobby Bonilla was always good.
Can I ask you a baseball question?
Sure.
Just out there random. Can you name one current player on the Cincinnati Reds?
Is Cincinnati Reds. Let me think. So
you can
is Joey Votto on the team still?
Okay, so you got one. All right, now here's my question for you. Guess who the fourth highest payer played on the Cincinnati Reds is this year?
Okay, say that again. The fourth highest paid player
on the Cincinnati's roster, and he's not even on the roster.
I would have no idea.
Ken Griffey Jr.
No kidding.
Yep.
Damn.
Deferred payments.
Damn, that's something.
Fourth highest paid player on the Cincinnati Reds this year is Ken Griffey Jr.
Well, it's time for them to reload and rebuild. I tell you what, we're going to step aside, take a real quick break. Mike Schmidt's going to join the program, the Sports Carnival Carousel, at 8:30 this morning. Can't wait to talk to Mike. He's great every single week. If you've been away from the program for some time, maybe you're just finding us for the very first time, keep yourself locked and loaded. Mike Schmidt, NSU Wolves head football coach, will be jumping aboard about 8:30. We've also got to talk about win totals. NFL win totals specifically came out on Sunday. Yesterday, we sort of sprinkled something out about the Packers, about the Bears. Today, we'll talk about the NFC North win totals. We might get into some other teams. We can also, Rob, And Joey, we can talk about the Brewers because tomorrow is opening day, and we want to make sure to get you invited to our opening day party at the Recov. With that, I've got the Brewers win totals right in front of me, so we can dice that up. We've got Badgers conversation that can't be avoided. The Wisconsin Badgers completely shit the bed versus North Texas yesterday. I did nail my play of the day yesterday. North Texas minus 1.5. They edge out Wisconsin by 2, but it was not the way that Wisconsin wanted to go out by any stretch. We've also got to get you ready for tonight's Bucks game, 6 o'clock at the Recub versus the Pacers. Plus, it sounds like, Matt, the Green Bay Packers are completely over Aaron Rodgers, like completely over Aaron Rodgers, which does beg the question. It's on our Twitter poll. It's on our Facebook group page. How many touchdowns will Jordan Love throw as the starter now for the Packers? Because this dude's the starter for the Packers now. So how many touchdowns will Jordan Love throw in his first full season as the starter for the Green Bay Packers? We'll take your temperature, give you a couple of early updates when we come back. Stick around. What can I say? The Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi Street is not only my favorite bar in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, it's my favorite restaurant in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin. Breakfast served 8 to noon, Saturday and Sundays, daily specials, incredible cocktails, and the best damn wait staff in the entire city. My buddy Matt knows how to treat you right, and that's why when you go to the Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi, you're always going to have a great time and a great meal with a great cocktail. So if you haven't been in a while, or perhaps you're just regular and you want to stop in again, make it a thing. I'm there every single week. How about you?
Coming to the Discovery Channel this fall, Living with a Confederate.
Hi, my name is Travis Tay. A lot of folks around here call me Tay-Tay. Yeah, I share a house with my second cousin. Name's Chandler. He's what some folks around here call eccentric. Why, hello there. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Chandler Worthington III, and I must admit, them Northerners, they get into my skin, make me hot under the collar, you know, with all that Northern aggression and everything. I always say, you boys just keep your Yankee Doodles out of my sweet potato pie. At least for now, anyway. That's my little joke. I mean, stars and bars may fill my heart, but hopefully, a chiseled chin and a barreled chest fills my loins. See what I'm saying? I gotta deal with that 24/7. I'm getting the vapors just thinking about them Northerners coming down here on their big old steeds.
Confederate.
Yeah.
I just got to give it up to the brilliance and the production of Chad Forrester, producer Chad, hanging out there in Washington State. Chad, I don't know if you're picking this program up maybe later on today, tomorrow, but great work, my friend. If you want to join the program, our Facebook group page, our YouTube, and our Twitch feeds all take comments. Twitter, LinkedIn, not so much. But surely appreciate you guys and gals, wherever you may be and however it is that you're picking this thing up. And perhaps, Matt, they're not watching us at all. They might be listening to us on any number of the podcast platforms in which the Sports Carnival is available. And perhaps you didn't know, but if you do want to download, listen to the audio podcast, Pandora, Spotify, Apple iTunes, Google Play Store, you name it, we're out there. Ask your Alexa to play the Sports Carnival for you, too. That should work. Matt, Joey Miller brought us to a baseball question before we went to break, asked us if we thought Christian Yelich would have a multi-homer game this season. That's real tough to say, Joey. I'm going to go out on a limb and say no right now, but that would...
It's a long season, though.
It's a long season. That would be another disappointing season. It really and truly would. We can hold out hope that at least for the moment, the Milwaukee Brewers have constructed a roster of really young, really talented with upward mobility guys that can contribute and contribute right away. I'm hopeful that Christian Yelich is a part of that because the contract that he is playing under, Matt, is the biggest contract the Brewers, I think, have ever given to a player in like the history of their team. Okay. So Christian Yelich is definitely earning a ton of money from this Milwaukee team. I would hope that he could earn his keep. We'll see, Joey. I'm not, again, going to hold my breath, but it would mean, Matt, that it's another disappointing season for the Brewers, at least in some ways, if Yelich isn't able to go at least multi-homer in one game. But I digress. We've got game 1 of 162 coming up tomorrow. And you're looking at it. If you're watching us right now, if you're not, I'm just telling you about it. We've got an opening day party that we'd love to invite you to. Now, tomorrow about 1 o'clock, game's going to start first pitches at 1:20, I believe, from Wrigley Field in Chicago, about 1 o'clock. And you can come in anytime, obviously. We're open at 11 o'clock. But right about 1 o'clock, we'll begin the party in earnest. Matt, we've got ballpark food specials, Miller Lite Old Style specials. We'll do some giveaways throughout the day. I'm reaching into the prize closet, if you will, because we still haven't officially gotten our sports memorabilia collection rolled out to our audience members. I'm going to be opening up that prize closet tomorrow. We're going to have some really special prizes from the Milwaukee Brewers, the NFL, possibly even the Green Bay Packers that folks can win with us at the Recub. Again, starting at about 1 o'clock. The game could go on for God knows how long. Hopefully it's not going to be 5 hours like it used to be, but if it's a good,
maybe 2.5 at most. Yeah.
Yep. 2.5 at the most.
Yeah, at the
most.
most.
It hasn't been a 2.5 hour game since I was 4.
Oh, maybe you and I should do some side action on that for tomorrow, just for some shits and giggles. My
there you
friend.
go, over under 2.5 hours.
Yep.
Dude, I'll take
Write that down for me.
Okay, what do you want?
I'll take the under.
I'm taking the over.
So I want to throw this out there for you because I know Johnny Zinski's listening. He is a diehard Brewers fan, but spends a lot of time in Chicago.
Sure. I
got to ask you this question, and it's not a sexual question, my friend. Do you know what a Chicago handshake is?
Does that have something to do with like a Malort?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And
Malort and what, $20? I don't know what that sounds weird.
So if you still can go down in Chicago, which is obviously an expensive city to live in and drink in, you can still get a shot of Malort and an Old Style for less than $6. So that's what a Chicago handshake is. It's a shot of Malort and a can of Old Style. So we'll be running that special tomorrow for the Cubs fans and Brewers fans, obviously. So I know Johnny will be in to partake on that as well.
Sounds like a plan. A shot of Malort and an Old Style for less
$5.
For $5. And that's like a Chicago staple, or is it just at like one bar?
No, it's primarily in Wrigleyville.
Oh, in Wrigleyville. Yeah. Okay.
Or, home Old Style. And obviously, they love it down there.
I like that. Yeah. That's a really interesting thing, the Chicago handshake. I would have thought for sure, Matt, it had something to do with the political bribe and paying police to beat people or something. That's what I would have thought.
I thought you were going to go with like the oldest, job in the world.
The oldest profession, the Chicago handshake.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to go
That
with.
is funny, though. That is funny. Like a Chicago handshake could just be a strict grab to the crotch, right?
Yep. You never know. Yeah. It's still possible.
Well, after some shots of Malort and some Old Styles, I think anything's on the table.
This is true, my friend. This is true.
Speaking of a shot or a grab to the crotch here, Morning Wood popping up here says he can't wait for the Corbin Burns going away party tomorrow. Oh, too soon, buddy, because Corbin Burns, I used to call him Meatball Burns, but he's not now because he's, a really good pitcher. Corbin Burns is still going to be with the Brewers, I would imagine, for this year or next year, because correct me if I'm wrong, group, but doesn't Corbin Burns after this season still have one more year of arbitration?
I know that. They have him through the 24th season as well.
So yeah, I don't think they're giving him away this season. And it's not like the NFL where they have to give him away before the arbitration season or he's mad at them and, he won't play on the franchise tag. So, damn, that's sad though. And Woody, listen, real quick, that's something. No, Matty, you and I have talked about this. We were talking about it at the bar. For these guys to bicker and moan over $700,000 for one of the most dominant pitchers in the game, that feels like a real miss to me. So, I don't think that tomorrow's our party for bye-bye Corbin Burns, but I hear you. That's a fucked up situation. I'm not excited about the way that's going.
Well, and with the way the Brewers pitching staff looks right now, they're either, depending how you look at it, either second ranked or fifth ranked overall with the best pitching staff in the major league, overall, depending where they are. Who's second pitchers? Woodruff, I believe.
Yeah, they've got Brandon Woodruff. Freddie Peralta still on that team.
And I think they're going to stay together as long as the Brewers keep a season going together. I can see maybe some more things that would be brought up later in the year after the All-Star break if they're not playing in a great year. Obviously, last year, the season did not end up the way the Brewers wanted when they did not end up making the playoffs. They have a great team. I think their pitching staff's going to drive them forward. That's for damn sure.
Well, they better, because they're going to need them to. And it was the same last year, right? The Brewers, for as good as they were record-wise for quite some time during the regular season, had a minus run differential. And that's been really their ballyhoo for the last couple of seasons, meaning they put up great pitching performances. They do. There's only so many games you can win 1-0. In Major League Baseball today. There's just only so many games that you can win like that. So while I agree, they've got a top-tier pitching staff, I just don't know where the offense is going to come from. Now, our good buddy Nash, who was actually down at the Recov last night too, kind of hanging out with us. Connor was closing. But our good buddy Nash, he's really high, like really, really high on the Brewers' young prospects. He thinks these guys are great. He loves their youth. He loves their energy. He thinks they're going to be a really good team. Just so you know, and I don't have a graphic for you, but the Brewers are projected to win right now 84.5 games.
Okay.
84.5. We can get into the entirety of the Major League win totals tomorrow if you'd like, because that's actually a good way to look ahead to the Major League season. Major League Baseball win totals aren't nearly as exciting when the release comes, if you will, of the NFL win totals, which we'll talk about. But the Brewers right now looking at 84.5 total wins, which I think puts them second in the division. I believe the Cardinals are at 86.5. We'll check. I believe this is also Johnny Wad checking back in it and says, we'll do a Chicago handshake when we get in the limo for the road trip. I am just, right now, I've got a movie that's being built in my head with Brian Hollywood behind the wheel, just looking like absolutely crazed and ready to go. I mean, eyes on fire, ready to drive us. I can see Johnny Watt in the back, cool as a cucumber as always, handing out the Chicago handshakes. I can see Matt looking nervous as shit, trying to buckle up, making sure this thing, if it does flip over, he's going to be
I would definitely need plenty of some Stacks Family Farms gummies to get through that trip to calm down a little bit. I think we'd have to hire a professional driver to drive us around, because I don't know how would you get back is, I guess, my question, if Hollywood's driving.
Well, listen, we'll worry about that. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Rob Dog is checking back in with the Sear Matty, and he says this, Joey Votto talking about the Reds, Jonathan India, Will Myers, Kevin Newman. There's 4 right there, Matt. He says, I'm so ready for opening day, and I can see Jordan Love doing better than people think. Okay, I like that, because that's something else I'd like to talk about. So thank you, Rob. That's a good transition.
Well, I was just going to go with tomorrow with the Cubs, and if you want to get into Aaron Rodgers real quick, I was just going to say, I honestly, I'm going to go with the Brewers tomorrow and Corbin Burns against the Cubs, which is really painful for me to say.
Who are the Cubs starting tomorrow?
Marcus Stroman.
Oh, gosh, that's still going to be
a good pitcher.
Stroman's really good.
Yep. It's just there's so many changes. And we brought it up too. I'm really excited to see how the rule changes go down. Suppose there's going to be a 30% increase in bats or bases stolen, that type of stuff. So I'm really interested to see how the rules and the game plays differently tomorrow than it has in the past.
Well, in Chicago, that goes without saying. We're going to have, 22% more bases stolen, 23% more people killed. I mean, that's Chicago. We know that. That's why we take our lives into our own hands when we go into the borough of Chicago. We don't need to talk about Aaron Rodgers specifically right now, but I do want to bring in the poll question this morning for your viewing and your listening pleasures. And if you're a member of our Twitter feed at The Sports Carney, you might have already taken this. If you're on our Facebook group page, you might have already taken this particular poll question. They exist in both platforms. How many TDs do you think Jordan Love's going to throw in his first season as a starter with the Packers? Because yesterday, Matt LaFleur, probably the coach that reporters were looking forward to talking to the most. Yesterday, Matt LaFleur said, under no uncertain terms, Jordan Love is the starter for this team. Rodgers is gone. Whether the trade to the Jets happens today, tomorrow, in 6 weeks or 6 months, doesn't matter. Jordan Love's the starter. And we're getting more votes in as I speak. So on Twitter, and Matt, I'll have you do the Facebook group page.
Yep, I'm looking at it.
How many touchdowns will Jordan Love throw in his first season? Right now, I'm a little surprised to see the number. 50% coming in for 21 to 30 touchdowns. 22.2 or 22.7%, 15 to 20. And then we've got a tie. 10 to 15 gets 13.6% of the votes, and 30 plus touchdowns gets 13.6% of the votes. The 21 to 30 touchdown range, though, is leading this poll at 50%. Where are we at with our Facebook group page?
We're right in line right there too, man. I can't believe these as well. 60% with 21 to 30 touchdowns next year, 25% at 15 to 20, 15% at 10 to 15, and nobody has them throwing over 30. So it's 60% with the 21 to 30, just like the Twitter feed.
Gotcha. All right. Well, listen, that would be
a hell of a year.
That would be a hell of a year. And I did pick between 15 to 20 because I could see Jordan Love right in that range of about 18, 19 touchdowns, 7, 8, 9 interceptions, right? Maybe even 10. I could see a 19-10 season with, let's say, a handful of rushing touchdowns. We'll go 3 or 4, and then a heavy dose of Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. That's what I could really see.
It's probably going to happen. I mean, he's only thrown 83 passes in his entire career in the regular season, so he doesn't have a lot of time on his arm. And obviously, he's been following Rodgers, which is great because he's pulling the same thing that Rodgers did for Favre for most things. So hopefully, he's mentally prepared for this. We'll see what happens. Obviously, they have to put a better team around him too. So it's not just on Jordan Love. Obviously, it's on the entire organization.
Well, no doubt, and I think that's why if you're the Green Bay Packers, you're probably not fearing this transition as much as some fans might expect. And I wouldn't even want to say that at this point. I don't know how many fans are fearful of the transition from Rodgers to Love. I know there is still an affection for Rodgers. There are still factions of the Green Bay Packer fan base. Jeff Schneider Tax and Accounting, he might be amongst them that really do believe in Rodgers and believe in his talent. And I'm not saying the guy's not great. He is. What we're talking about, though, is the reality of the situation. The man's going to have to retire at some point. He's near 40. He doesn't want to play for the Packers. Packers move on. Fine. Jordan Love has been groomed by this team, this coaching staff for 4 years, essentially. This will be his fourth. They're fine with this guy. And if he does throw 19 touches and 10 picks, is he Aaron Rodgers? No. But again, was Aaron Rodgers in the Super Bowl last year? No. What about the year before that? No. All right. Well, we're going to keep saying no quite a number of times before we get to the yes. So it doesn't really matter to me anymore. As a Packer fan and as a football fan, I just don't think that you should be too worried if you're like, oh, God, the sky is falling. The NFL is also markedly different than it was in the 70s and 80s. Joe DeGuano talks about the horridness of the Packers in the 70s and the 80s. The development's a lot different than it was then. I do believe in the Packers front office from a material basis. I believe in Milt Henriksen. Got some local ties here. Milt was an incredible player personnel guy at Baltimore. He's done a great job with the Packers. Brian Gutekunst has made some really awesome moves as GM. Mark Murphy's no fucking dummy. And Matt LaFleur, say what you will, we'll see how good of a coach he is, but he does have the best record to start an NFL career to tie with George Seifert of the San Francisco 49ers. So, there's something. And I just don't think they should be too worried about it.
No, they seem to know what's going on. I guess it's the reality of the situation is there's one thing, and there's one thing only that the Packers fans should be worried about when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, and it's called compensation. And that's the only thing that's holding this back is whether or not he's going to play another year or not. And that's why this is all being held up right now, because the Jets just don't want to have a 1-year rental.
Well, that's what they're going to get, and they better be ready for that. This is where the Jets possibly should still be a teeny bit concerned. I know Woody Johnson said yesterday at the NFL owners meeting, when asked by a reporter from ESPN how he was feeling anxious, said, I'm feeling a little anxious. They know the deal could get done, but there is something to consider. And I don't know who's saying they believe, but I believe too.
That is Jeff Schneider.
Oh, that is Jeff Schneider.
Yep.
Sweet. All right. You believe in Rodgers. Cool. See how that works out. It's going to be awesome.
And real quick, brother, we do have a driver. Jason Brockmeyer will drive the limo for us. So we're good to go on that too.
Well, what about Hollywood?
I don't. I just don't trust him to drive.
Fine. All right, Jason, you're up. We got
Rob doesn't drink. He's even better.
Okay. All right, fine. I still got this movie playing out in my head. Look, I think that there is still something to consider, and this is one of the wild cards of all wild cards. Not that this would happen or that there's been any reporting around this, so I'm just kind of making this up. But there is still a wild card, and it's called television money. Because if this thing goes on for a while, and we know that Rodgers loves television, I know that yesterday we didn't have a disagreement. We were just talking about Rodgers and his affection for or not for media. Rodgers loves media that he can especially be in control of, right? He loves being in that space where he can ask the questions. You mentioned that about Jeopardy. What if CBS? What if Amazon Prime? What if Fox Sports? What if one of these companies comes, because Brady's not going to join right away this year, right? But what if one of these companies comes and offers him, I don't know, $200 million to be a sideline guy?
For sure.
Hey, we know it's not the Packers, but you got $200 million sitting right here. He could still retire. Like, that's still a realistic possibility. Again, way out there. I'm not projecting this to happen. I don't think that there's anybody that's even really suggested that. But I do think that in life, where everything is possible until it's not possible, that's still something to consider. So if you're Woody Johnson, yes, feel a teeny bit anxious, just a little, not too much, but a little.
Well, and I think the only thing that a lot of people have been bringing up with Aaron Rodgers, not to keep wasting so much oxygen on him, but this has to get fixed sooner or resolved sooner or later, because if this isn't resolved by the first time they show up for practice, it's just going to make this a bigger mess, because he can either stay away or show up and just be a bigger pain in the ass and draw more media to the Packers. So they can't keep him out of the office.
So didn't Joe say yesterday, and I didn't live here, so I don't remember seeing this because it wasn't covered out west, but didn't Joe say yesterday that, and maybe this was on Monday, I should say, that Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre, went to Packers Family Day the year that he ended up getting traded to the Jets?
I think it was something like that. Yeah, just to make the situation even worse. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd actually like to see that. Can you imagine the show we do? Morningwood says, as we kind of wrap up this little segment, that Rodgers would be perfect for a role on Survivor. Yeah, I guess that would be an interesting show to see him on there too. He'd look good, that's for sure. He'd have the body type for it. Those people are all like really cut up and really good
He's
looking.
good in darkness.
Yeah. It's a good point, man. Well, Woody, you set that bad boy up. All right, guys and gals, we're going to step aside real quick. Want to say what's up to our good friend and former Eagle football player, Swiss Army knife for Mike Schmidt and Matt Janis, Kyle Cable at One Trust Real Estate, the official real estate partner of the program. When we come back, the former Eagles head coach, now up there in Aberdeen, Mike Schmidt, going to be jumping aboard. Stay tuned.
Now more than ever, if you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps an investment property, you need a full-time dedicated real estate agent who is up to date on all the latest trends and analysis and is ready to give you the kind of service that you deserve. That's why the official real estate agent and the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival is Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate. Whether you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps you are a seasoned investor, call the official real estate agent partner of the Sports Carnival, Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate.
Do you have a wedding, anniversary party, or bat mitzvah coming up in your life? Then you need Hey Duda DJ services featuring Neil Duda, the Midwest Eminem.
No doubt about it, I'm done hammered, and that's every day. Brains so cloudy, dog.
Dropping sick beats while you enjoy your treats. No party is too big or too small. Quinceañeras, graduations, ice cream socials, or cocktail parties. Whatever the celebration, Hey Duda is rocking the foundation.
Here we go again, back with all our friends. Here comes the pain.
Neil Duda.
Neil Duda's DJ service rocking out places like Centerville and Trempealeau. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right. Hope you're off to a great start. The poll question we've got for you is up on our Facebook group page, Twitter feed at The Sports Carney. How many TDs do you think Jordan Love is going to throw in his first year, I should say, as a full-time Packers starter? We know that that's going to happen. Matt LaFleur yesterday at the NFL owners meetings was talking to reporters, and Mike Schmidt joining the program here, NSU Wolves head coach. Mike, Matt LaFleur made no hesitation, made no reservation about naming Jordan Love as starter, talked about the move from Aaron to Jordan Love, the progression that we'll have to see, and Packer fans should all be patient with that. He's not going to be Rodgers right away. So I'm going to ask you, how many TDs do you think Love throws in his first year as a Packer starter? Do you think he's in that 15 to 20 range, 21 to 30? Is he throwing 30 plus, or is he going to be one of the worst QBs in the league and throw something like, 8 touchdowns?
I sure hope he doesn't throw 8 touchdowns. That would be really bad. I think he throws in the 20s. I think he's going to get over 20. I know that it seems like it's a big proposition, but Marcus Mariota threw 15 touchdowns last year, and he played for the Carolina Panthers. No, he didn't. Nobody knows who Marcus Mariota played for. I know he played for the Falcons, but nobody else knows who Marcus Mariota played for. Andy Dalton, I think, threw 18 touchdown passes last year, and he played for the Bears. No, he didn't. He played for the Saints. Nobody even knows who Andy Dalton played for last year, Dave. So, throwing 18 touchdown passes. Andy Dalton is splitting time with a tight end at quarterback, and he threw 18. So I think he's got to be in the 20s. Just because I think they're going to have a good year. I think they're going to be a good team. I don't know that they're a great roster, but I think they're a really good roster. And I think because of that, and I think that Matt LaFleur is good enough that I think he's going to throw in the 20s somewhere.
Okay, well, what did Rodgers throw last year, fellas? 24?
24.
Okay, so riddle me this. If Rodgers throws 24 touchdowns, let's say comes in if Love throws 24 touchdowns, comes in somewhere in the range of Rodgers, 10 to 12 picks, which is where he was at last year, throws for maybe 3,800 yards, Packers win 9 games. Are we going to be looking at Aaron Rodgers a bit sideways and saying, so you've been holding this up on this? Is that going to be a narrative that might start to exist? Like if he has a comparable season to where Rodgers is now, are we really going to start to scratch our heads as Packer fans and say, well, wait, we've been putting up with all this bullshit for how many years for this?
Yeah. Yes. Like we will be, Jordan Love he'll be on the State Farm commercials, and Jordan Love will be all over the place if he's even comparable to what Aaron had been. And I think that's, probably a little skewed with as many rookie receivers as you had a year ago. And Christian Watson was kind of available, kind of not, hurt most of the year. And so you have that. So I think a lot of it's going to depend on, can Christian Watson be healthy this year? Are they going to find a viable tight end option? And is that player going to be healthy to kind of add something else in there? But yeah, if he does, which I do, I think he's going to throw in the 20s. I do think you're going to look and say, like, what was going on here? And I think you can just kind of sense that part of the Packers now, just like we feel like we're at the breaking point where there isn't that much difference and we're all ready to move forward. You heard those comments from Goody and what he had to say about it, but you just feel like we're ready to just move on and focus on football, and we're ready to just focus on this team. And I think just by getting that part of it, you're going to see the other guys play even better.
And Coach, I know Dave wants to get into possibly some of win totals and et cetera for the season coming up here so quick. But I'm wondering, really curious, what is it like being a Packer fan stuck in, Viking Nation up there?
It's great. Are you kidding me? Like, I don't know. Like, I just got to go like this and be like, that's the amount of Super Bowls that the Vikings have right there. And that's all you got to do. The conversation ends right there. So, I think that's totally fine. Last year was tough. You played along with it. You just were really happy for everybody. You were happy that the Vikings fans got to have their regular season, because as a Packers fan, you knew that it wasn't going to work out, and you knew they were going to lose in their first round playoff game. So everything was good. The Vikings fans didn't know that. They were deliriously happy that this was going to go really, really well. And they thought they were going to end, they didn't think they were going to end in the Super Bowl, right? Vikings fans thought they were going to at least end in the NFC Championship game. And they thought that's where we'll end this thing. We're pretty good at that, having high expectations, getting to a championship game. And then that's about it. But the rest of us knew that it was going to end in the first round of the playoffs. So, I think that was kind of fun to watch it play out. They had their fun, they had their season, and now we'll see what happens this year.
Good Viking fans, they understand that there is no hope, and the good Viking fans that I know are as self-deprecating, self-loathing as any that I've ever met. People, that is, and I think that that's the right attitude to take, and that is a great little segue here, fellas, to bring us into what is at least being predicted by Vegas odds makers and those around the world who put these books together, the win totals for the coming season. So we'll just focus on the NFC North today. The Lions are getting 9.5 as a total, and this is about a consensus number as you can find. The Vikings come in with 8.5, Packers and Bears 7.5. I have found some books that are taking the Packers all the way down to 7. I suggest if you can get the Packers at 7, you take that over. But, Mike, let's start with Green Bay there, because you mentioned you think they're going to be a good team. I think they'll largely be an okay team, too. Good is relative. Good in the division, yes, because they get to play the Lions, the Bears, and the Vikings. I can see them winning 8, maybe 9 games. I could see them going 9-8. I could see them going 8-9. I think they go over 7.5 wins. I'm not exactly sure where this team's mindset even is for this year and what their expectations are, if it's to win 8-9 games, if it's to make the playoffs. But starting with the Packers, I see them winning more than 7.5 games. So if you can get them at 7, though, guys and gals, I suggest that you do that, because that's a really juicy number. But I like them going over. Mike, you think the same thing largely, I can assume?
I think they're going way over. I think the schedule, I think it really kind of plays to the Packers right now. And just look at where they have to play at. I mean, their road games are at Carolina. They're at Atlanta, at Denver, at Vegas. Those are really friendly road games that you have in there. You also are at the Giants, at the Steelers. I think those are really friendly road games. And plus the guys you have up on the screen, Dave, you get to play those 3 teams in 6 games. That has to be a good thing for this Packers team and where they're at. The one thing that gives me pause here is the fact that we still are going to see a Joe Barry defense. And that is really one thing that really is concerning for me, just looking at what they can get done. Because as much as I feel like they need to score more points and do more things, this defense didn't get much better this offseason. This defense didn't add anybody into it. In fact, they probably only lost guys so far into that group. And they were really, that was the biggest issue, especially in the second half, as teams figured out how to play against them. So until they get that part fixed, it's like Mike Pettin 2.0 is what it kind of feels like here right now. And that gives me a little pause, but I still think they're going way over the 7.5 wins, just because of the way their schedule is set up, that they have their tough opponents that are outside of the NFC North. They get to play those teams in Lambeau, and they've got a really friendly road schedule.
So, Matt, what are your thoughts? Do you think the Packers go over under 7.5 wins total?
Well, after actually looking at this and listening to Coach too, I'm probably going to take him at over 7.5 as well. I guess the other thing with going forward is the NFL loves parity so much, and for every year there's 4 or 5 teams that do make it the playoffs. They don't make it the next year. Coach brought this up. The teams that they're going against, there's some teams here that are going a lot of transition or younger quarterbacks. You got the Steelers, the Raiders, the Broncos. Who knows what's going to happen with Russell Wilson? The Panthers and Falcons are still kind of out there. You don't know for sure. Buccaneers are revamping. Saints with Derek Carr. Who knows? Rams are going through a whole transition as well. So it's looking pretty good if you take the entire schedule overall.
Well, and if they can really run Matt LaFleur's system, which is a run-heavy system, a lot of RPO. You've got Dillon, you've got Aaron Jones. Both of those guys catch balls out of the backfield really well. You should be able to keep games close. The defense, I think, is going to be something of an issue, but I'm hopeful that some of what the Packers saw at the end of last season had to do with the loss of the likes of Rashawn Gary, continuous injuries to Darnell Savage and Jair Alexander. Let's take a look, though, at the Bears, because, Matt, that's your favorite team, 7.5 wins. That feels optimistic for me, guys. And I'll just say this. I like that the Bears are looking to retool around Justin Fields. I do. I think that's the right idea. But until they address that offensive line, I think they are going to have massive problems in this division. The ideas that the Bears have about roster construction, they just strike me as odd. They trade away a great linebacker and then go pay a linebacker a ton of money when you really need to address the offensive line. And there have been linemen out there that have gotten deals this year, guys. There have been linemen that have been on the market. So I like the Bears, and I like where they're, in some respects, going behind Fields. I think it was a great move to get DJ Moore, but I still think the Lions are probably a little bit under 7.5. I could see them at 6 to 7 wins this year. Coach, we'll start with you, and then, Matt, we'll get your fan take. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think the Bears sniff over 7.5 wins. I don't think they're sniffing 8 wins at all. I think they're underneath that for sure. I disagree with you. I think building around Justin Fields is mediocre at best. I think you're probably sitting bottom half of this whole thing. I think with some of the guys you have out there and the number 1 pick, I don't know. I don't really understand that, but that's where they want to get to. And then they still haven't constructed the roster around him. Now there's time, but they haven't put the roster yet around him. So for sure for this year, it's just not going to happen. They don't have an offensive line. And so they got DJ Moore, and I really like DJ Moore, and he's young, and he's a player that has a lot of years to play here. But DJ Moore is the guy that's going to come in and flip and win you 5 or 6 more games. I have a hard time seeing that with this team. I don't think they're even close to this. I don't think there's a chance they win 8 games. I just don't see that happening at all.
Well, I guess the biggest thing with the Bears takeaway is it's way too early in the season. They still have to spend at least 40 or 45 million just to reach their cap. They have 27 open spots on the roster still.
But who are they going to sign? Who's out there? Who's the guy that you're looking at? Like, now maybe they'll use this draft capital here that they can move that around with, I guess.
But Coach, that's what I'm saying, though. They also have 10 draft picks they have to use still. So they have so much up in the air that I agree with you. I don't think they're going to hit that up. They just have too much up in the air. And with the Packers as well, they have to figure out their draft cap once they get rid of Rodgers, because they're going to have to surround Jordan Love with some better players or get Joe Barry some better players on defense as well.
No question. There's no question about that. I would say this. How many guys in the NFL in general move win totals one or two wins at all? And look at who would be out there that they could add, or that there's even rumor that they're talking to or targeting that's even there. Who could be that guy that moves that? Because usually that's at quarterback, usually that's at wide receiver, usually that's at some of these spots. Who is that guy that they could even trade to go get that? That's why I think the Justin Fields thing is just a means to no end here, that it just keeps going on, that you'll be in the middle here because there's not another guy that's going to move that thing far enough. Now, if it's Lamar Jackson, now there's a different story. There's the one guy who's out there that could be in that conversation. That is that. But that to me is the one person in one position. So if it is Justin Fields, I don't see that there's a guy that's going to move the needle. But if it's not Justin Fields, now there's a conversation to be had.
Well, Coach, I guess I will agree with you to a certain extent. Unfortunately, the McCaskies are the cheapest effing owners in the NFL, and I don't see them ever making that move for the Lamar Jackson. I kind of do disagree with you on Justin Fields as well, too, because he is under a rookie contract, so the Bears can do some moving around with that. Also, the expectations in Chicago, just like Matt LaFleur is trying to temper them in Green Bay, the expectations in Chicago are not going to go to the Super Bowl this year. So I think they're just trying to build something. That's what I'm getting at. They're just trying to build something for the future, and I know they're not going to sniff 8, but I like the direction the Bears are finally going.
So I'll end the Bears thing with this, because I like the idea of Lamar Jackson to Chicago for a number of reasons. I think, first of all, you've got a basic scheme in place because of what they were attempting to do with Justin Fields, except for Lamar Jackson's like 18 times better. Then you have a superstar in the city of Chicago, which is exactly what Chicago needs and wants, because Chicago is one of those markets where you will get free agents to come to, even though it's cold. It's not Green Bay. The Lamar Jackson to the Chicago thing, I started talking about this months ago, but everybody told me I was absolutely batshit crazy. Now we'll see, because nobody's dealing with Lamar Jackson. All right, let's look at the Vikings here, 8.5 wins. Again, I think the Vikings last year, and we all saw what we saw. they bounced into lucky victories. At the same time, there's an old Chinese proverb, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And I think that's what the Vikings were last year. They were a little bit luckier than they were good. We all, as a collective, Mike, you felt this, Packer fans, knew in some way, shape, or form the Vikings would absolutely shit the bed against the Giants, and they did. They just weren't a legit playoff team in that capacity, but they still won those games, and they won close games, so give them their just desserts. This year, 8.5 wins. I haven't looked at the Vikings schedule. I think is achievable. I can still see the Vikings going 9-8, 10-7, something in that range. Your thoughts?
I agree. I think they're gonna. Again, I think the team that's up in the upper right hand corner of this graphic. I don't think that they're going to win 10 games. I don't think that's a team that's going to be that. So I don't believe in them as much as probably everybody else believes in the Detroit Lions. So I just feel like what they have is so fragile that it can go away so fast. That it can go so bad so fast when you're built on just, hey, things are going really well. We just love each other and it's great. A couple injuries into that when you're not really that good of a team kind of changes that. But I really like the Vikings in this spot to go over that. I think there's just one reason for that, and that's Justin Jefferson. When you look at the other side of things, that there's a guy that can move the needle and be a difference maker. So the Kirk Cousins thing or whatever happens with him, I think the Vikings are at an inflection point here as well. What are they going to do with the future of their organization? I think the Packers are at that inflection point that there's a massive amount of pressure on Matt LaFleur right now. I don't think there's very much pressure on the Vikings and their staff. I think there's massive amount of pressure on Kirk Cousins and trying to make do with what he has there with Justin Jefferson, a truly generational talent guy there. So I think they're still good enough to win. I think again, injuries can really derail that thing for the Vikings really, really fast. But I still think they have a good enough roster that they can go into that 9-8 kind of range that'll be there. I don't know that they go more than that. 10-7 would be really, really surprising, I think. But I do think they'll go 9-8.
Coach, what are your thoughts on Lamar Jackson being on the Vikings being one of the shortlist teams for Lamar Jackson to land?
Yeah, I think that's real. I think that's really exciting to hear. I think the Vikings, I think they're going to try to go get Lamar Jackson. I think that's definitely a possibility. And I think that if they don't, Hendon Hooker is going to be in that mix for them if he can get down and gets out of the top 15, which I don't know if he's going to get down to the Vikings or not in that draft, but they're going to go with a quarterback one way or the other and who they like there. That would be great. I think it's lunacy for the Bears not to go after Lamar Jackson. He's 26 years old. Justin Fields is 24 years old. What are we talking about here to not go after him? But I do think the Vikes, I don't know, there seems to be some smoke coming out of that with the Vikings and Lamar Jackson, and that could be a real thing that's happening as well. I think they keep Kirk Cousins. They play through his contract here. They figure that part out, and I think they get younger, and I think they draft Hendon Hooker. I think that is a very likely scenario for the Vikings.
Hendon Hooker would have been most likely the number one pick out of this coming season because when he got injured for Tennessee and he beat Alabama like a drum, and he looked amazing. This kid was awesome. All right, so the Lions finally here in the NFC North, fellas. I don't think they win this 10, 11 games that people are predicting. And I love Dan Campbell now. I thought he was a meathead at first, and I've grown to love this guy just like the players do.
He still is a meathead, Dave. He still is, but
players love him. And listen, and that's a thing, right? That's really a thing. Players love you. That's a thing. At the same time, the way that the Lions roster is still constructed, and again, last year, one of the healthiest teams in the NFL in many of their key positions, that's not likely to repeat itself. And when that, as you've mentioned, injury toll starts to take its toll on the team, I just don't know that they've got the juice, and the division still isn't completely garbage. I agree the Packers will be better than predicted. The Vikings, I think, will be there, and Chicago will be a tougher out for Detroit in Chicago. So I think they're under 9.5 wins. I could see them being 9-8 again this year. I could see them getting to that plateau, but I really see an 8-9 season, something in that range. I think something could happen. And listen, they started off 0-6 last year. Let's not forget that is a fucking terrible start, 0-6. So they were historically good in the second half. I don't know if I could see that. So I take the under here.
Yeah, I take the under, and I think you're right on that part. Like they just they stayed healthy through that stretch, and then they hit a lot of teams that weren't healthy, and were able to kind of get it going and living off that momentum and that juju, and they're certainly going to have that, but like there's no carryover from year to year. It's not like momentum isn't something that like, oh man, That's where I think people get fooled in betting. I think people get fooled in things like this right here. Momentum does not exist year to year. These are different years, different teams, different rosters, the whole world changes year to year. And so I don't believe in that momentum carrying over for the Lions here. I think you just are who you are. And I don't know that they're that good. I think they've done a fine job, and some of the things they've built has been really good. I like them taking Penei Sewell and doing those kind of things. I think that makes them legitimate okay teams, but let's not forget that remember how crazy everybody thought the Bengals were to go pass on Penei Sewell and go take another wide receiver. They're going to take another wide receiver here. Yeah, well, Jamar Chase has turned out to be okay for them. So as much as I like some of that stuff that the Lions have done, they still don't have that guy that pushes that needle into that 10-win mark. Can they go 9-8? I guess. I mean, maybe if they hit everything right again, but I don't believe momentum carries over from year to year. I think this thing starts all over, and I just don't think they're that good of a team.
Well, I think the one takeaway that looking at that graphic, coach, is what they're saying is whoever is in this division that goes 8-9 or 9-8 is going to end up winning this division. And that's pretty ugly. And then maybe, coach, for next week, we might have to get a top 5 list of coaches you'd want to play for, because I would go play for Dan Campbell. That's for Dan.
Hey, listen, I'm the only guy I want to go play for. This is what I do for a living. It's only me here. There's no top 5 or list on this thing, brother.
Oh, Mike, I love you. I would just run through walls for you, buddy. If my knees could hold up, I'd get my eligibility back because, well, I have plenty of it. Never did go to college. Real quick, opening day tomorrow, Brewers, Cubbies. We know that you're a huge Brewer fan. What are your thoughts, Mike? Is this going to be a season the Brewers are going to be able to go over 84.5 wins? That's their projected win total.
I think they get 85. I think they go to 85. I think they finish second in the division. I don't think it's good enough for the playoffs. I don't think they're a playoff team. I think similar conversation that we just had with the Packers. I think the biggest part is they just play a few more games against a terrible division. So I think that really helps them out. Not that it's overly more, but I think that helps them get that over. And I do think they do have the second best roster in their division. So I do think that they're going to go over that. I think they get to 84 or 85, maybe 86. And I've seen all 3 of those numbers at some of those prediction lines there for the Brewers, but I think they're going 85 or 86 is where I see them finishing at, and finishing second in the division and just out of the playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for me to see the Brewers winning more than 85. They just don't have enough offense in my estimation right now. Who knows if that changes? I know that we had some of our guys, Morningwood was mentioning that Brewers should trade Corbin Burns while they still have time and have trade value. I would pump the brakes on that for now. Listen, hurt feelings can get made up by a lot of money, right? Like you can have really, really sore feelings about $700,000. If that turns into $7 million overnight, like, poof, Genie granted me 7 million wishes. This is fantastic. They can get there, but we'll see. Tomorrow's opening day party, Mike. If you were in town, we'd love to have you there. We'd love to have you there.
I'd love to be there and just watch baseball all day. And I think this 2.5 hour thing that you guys have going on, I'm gonna blow a horn in here.
That's where I was going, Coach. I was gonna ask you to take your point on that bet. Where are you at on that, Coach? Over or under on 2.5?
They don't play high school 7-inning games under 2.5 hours anymore. 2.5. No, wait, this thing's going way over 2.5.
It's gonna be awesome. We're gonna start the party at 1. By about 8 p.m. at night, we're gonna be wrapping up. That was an exciting baseball game, and now it's been canceled for darkness, and we'll come back tomorrow, and we'll pick it up in the 5th inning here of the Major League Baseball's opening day. All right, Mike. Well, have a nice rest of your day in Aberdeen. Hopefully the snow thaws at some point for you. It's gorgeous here. I'll just leave you with, we love you, buddy. Go Wolves. Okay, go Wolves.
Go Wolves, Dave. It was minus 13 this morning in Aberdeen. So we sure love you. We got a month left of winter out here, but yeah, we'll see baseball sometime. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week.
Go Wolves.
Thanks, Coach.
Preferred Insurance is the official auto, home, business, flood, and life insurance agency of the Sports Carnival, serving folks in La Crosse and surrounding areas with licenses in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. As an independent insurance agency, Preferred Insurance is free to find the very best insurance for you, your family, or your business needs. Call my friends at Preferred Insurance today and set up a free consultation. Remember, working with an independent agency means Preferred Insurance works for you, with you, to find the best solutions at the best prices.
Welcome back, Sports Carnival. Rolling on here, broadcasting from the Trauma Center studio, powered by the Recovery Room. I'm Dave. This is Matt. BetUS.com. Enter promo code Carnival. If you haven't done so already, claim that 125% free play deposit match. If you're in any legal hot water, let me tell you, my good buddy Sean O'Neill at the O'Neill Law Firm downtown La Crosse helps you out. Bankruptcy, family, criminal. As a matter of fact, if you're looking for a new job and you're a paralegal, Sean is looking for a new paralegal down at the O'Neill Law Firms. I saw on Facebook yesterday, Matt, that Sean was asking if anybody is looking for a great job. If you're a paralegal or if you know somebody that is a paralegal that's looking for a career change, perhaps they're looking to get back into it, give them a call. Again, downtown La Crosse, 5th and King is the building, the O'Neill Law Firm. And, of course, our good buddy Kyle Cable, One Trust Real Estate, doing some great work with me in the Wisconsin Dells, Matt, giving us a couple of little kernels to chew on here for ourselves. If you're investing, buying, or selling, Kyle Cable, One Trust Real Estate. Matt, we've got our poll question on our Facebook group page, our Twitter feed. We'll update that here in just a minute. We've got to talk about the Badgers, though, from last night. This was a painful game to watch in the second half. The first half of this game, so I'm downstairs, I'm bartending last night. We had a really busy Tuesday night, which was awesome. Glad to see everybody out and having a fun night on a Tuesday. And a lot of it, I think, was to see the Badgers. They tipped off at about 6 o'clock. Wisconsin was roaring in the first half. Wisconsin scored 41 points, Matt, in the first half. The first half, they scored 41. That's like a semi-respectable number for most college programs and like an old school 1990s NBA team, right? 41 points in the first half is not bad. And they led North Texas at the half 41-29. The Badgers scored 15 points in the entire second half of the basketball game and lose to Northwestern without getting a shot off in the final possession, of which they took a timeout by the final score of 56-54. Now, I'm not trying to be this guy to rub anything into anybody's face, because it's not like that. You know I'm pulling for the Badgers. But what did we talk about yesterday here on the show? That North Texas was a great defensive team. They allowed their opponents on average, 55 points a game. Wisconsin scores 54. North Texas was favored by a point and a half. And I told you it was a slight, not a big margin of error, but take North Texas minus a point and a half. And they covered that bet. Now, I'm not happy that Wisconsin lost. That's not what I'm saying. But this did work out in many ways the way that I expected it to in the second half. However, Matt, the first half had me confused which Badger team we were watching. Chucky Hepburn scored 15 points in the first half, not a single basket in the second. I don't know if you saw any of this game. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people that are listening or watching us today didn't see this yesterday, because maybe you'd already given up on Wisconsin basketball. This was not the way to go out, because the first half, again, looked strong, solid. I have no idea what this team didn't do in that halftime speech to come out so flat. But the ending of that game was such a dramatic letdown. I don't even know what to say. They go into a timeout and can't even get a single shot off. It was kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, I watched the entire game, Dave.
Okay.
There were way too many passes at the last play of the game. That's why they ended up getting kicked out and ran out of time. It was horrible to watch in the second half. Like you said, Chucky Hepburn came out on fire in the first half. Give all the credit to North Texas for the halftime adjustments that they made on Chucky in the second half, because they shut him down when they switched over to a different defender, which was huge. This game marked the 21st game of the Badgers season that they lost by 5 points or less. So it goes to show their season that they had. You just brought up which team was going to show up. The first half of the game that showed up was the NIT Badgers. The second half team that showed up was the regular season Badgers.
That was the Big Ten Badgers.
The Big Ten Badgers.
Yeah.
And that's really the truth of what happened in that game.
You know, you mentioned that to us yesterday. You said if it's the NIT Badgers playing against North Texas, you liked them and you liked where they were at. You thought they could win the game, cover the spread, because, again, they were 1.5 dogs. And you did say if they were the Big Ten Badgers, an absolute loss. Look, North Texas, and this is just a point of reference here, plays in Conference USA. Now, I'm not trying to say that Conference USA is in any way, shape, or form as good as the Big Ten, because it's not. But I will throw this out here to you. FAU is one of the Final Four teams in the NCAA tournament. They're a Conference USA team. North Texas is going to the finals of the NIT. Their opponent is
UAB.
also, UAB from Conference USA.
Yes, sir.
So Conference USA has 3 of the final 7 teams playing in all of college basketball. Just saying. I know we're not making a correlation to make correlations, but that is funny. It's an interesting coincidence. So Wisconsin, look, the season was never, to me, one that looked very good. It felt like it was going to be over before the NIT. I was slightly surprised that they even went to the NIT. The fact that they went and, got to the Final Four. Listen, I guess we can look at that as a glass half full scenario, right? Because coming from that Big Ten tournament and the regular season, which just felt atrocious, to some sort of hope and optimism, not terrible, right? Not terrible. Could have been a lot worse. P12 Foreman did ask before we leave out here today, Matt, who is working at 11?
Roberto Bobby.
Ooh, gosh, Bobby. What a good bartender. Great hair, too, by the way. Ladies love Bobby.
He's a good kid. He's a good kid.
Ladies love Bobby. All right, before we leave, one more thing. I'll throw this out. Final poll question update, at least for us here on the show. You got plenty of time left to take this poll. How many TDs will Jordan Love throw in his first season as a Packers QB? 21-30 still leads on Twitter. 50% of respondents, as we continue to get more votes, 50% of respondents still say 21-30. Matt, Facebook says
52% says 21-30.
Okay. All right, guys and gals, have a great rest of your day. Recov open at 11 tonight. The Bucks, they will be playing against the Indiana Pacers. That will be at 6 o'clock. Bucks are 12-point favorites. Come over to the Recov. It's Wing Wednesday. Pound of wings, pitcher of beer, $14. We'll see you tomorrow. And we'll have Nate Coleman from The Good Fight talking some boxing. It should be fun. See ya.